On your Thursday episode of Locked On Raptors, the playoff race is winding down. How do we feel about it? We'll discuss with our feelings correspondent, Katie Heindl.
You are Locked On Raptors, your daily Toronto Raptors podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, what's going on? And welcome to another episode of Locked On Raptors. It is Thursday, April the 9th, and I'm your host, your pal, Sean Woodley. Thank you so much for being here again today. And on today's show, we are doing a little temperature check on the Toronto Raptors chase for a playoff spot in the Eastern Conference. It's extremely close. The scoreboard watching last night, bit of a mixed bag. The Hawks loss to the Cavs is a really big deal. We'll talk about that and just how we've been enjoying or not enjoying this push to the finish where there have been some real stakes for every game the Toronto Raptors have played. We've also got some mailbag questions left over from a couple of days ago. We're going to talk about what happens if this all crumbles and they lose in the plan. Will there be big, massive franchise changes, or will they kind of stay the course? Plus, what have we learned this season or changed our minds about that we maybe thought before the year? And here to dig into all of that is our dear pal, our feelings correspondent from Basketball Feelings, and also fighting through a horrible back injury today. Katie, how the hell are you? And why do all people of Austrian descendants have problems with their backs, huh?
We go too hard. we don't have a quit gene. We go too hard. Shout out Jakob Pertl. I feel you, brother.
Jakob Pertl. Thank you for being here as your back seizes up. I will not make you do any sort of physical,
I'll be doing that
strenuous
when you read
stuff on
when
the
you
pod.
read the ads. I'll be standing up and doing swings, arm swings.
Looking forward to watching that on the little screen where you are when you're off screen. Okay, Katie, let's get the thermometers out, the mercury, put it in the water. How you feeling as there are 3 games left for the Raptors to play the Heat again tonight, a team that the Raptors have kind of proven this year that they are kind of a lot better than and really are a tough matchup for. Really encouraging win on Tuesday where they just kind of spanked them up and down the floor. You would hope they can do that again tonight, especially, Katie, because last night, the Atlanta Hawks, who have felt like shoo-ins for the 5 seed for a little while now on account of they never lose, actually lost to the Cleveland Cavaliers. And now the Raptors winning out will have them tied with the Hawks at the very least. And they have the tiebreaker over the Hawks as well. And so there's a lot going on there. There's a sort of path to the 5 seed that wasn't there before. There is, of course, the thing where if there's a 3-way tie between the Raptors, the Sixers, and the Hawks, I think the Raptors end up 7th in that situation, even if they get to 47 wins. There's a million different machinations for all this. The Magic won last night. They're having a bit of a late season surge here to try to salvage whatever hellish season they've put together. It's fun, Katie. I don't know how many of these teams are like any good. I don't know if any of these teams actually want it all that much, but I feel like it's been a kind of enjoyable couple of weeks here because it does feel as though the scoreboard watching, there's not an inevitability to it because any one of these teams is liable to lay a big old fat egg at any given time. And that adds some life to this whole rush to the postseason. Katie, how are you feeling about things right now?
Yeah, the math is down to the moment, which I'm not always a fan of just because I'm like, I can't keep up. Like,
Sure.
Like I need some clear path scenarios and there really aren't any right now.
Yeah, I want to know what my week looks like next week. I have like things I want to do and I can't plan those things. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. So I'm enjoying the jockeying, if only because I think in seasons past, the play-in, not to say that the Raptors will wind up there, but like the play-in scenario can be a little bit forgettable, right? It can feel just like sort of like the loose ends, of the conference meeting and another like prelude before we actually get to the quote unquote real postseason. And it doesn't feel that way this year, which is exciting. I think it's been very interesting, the teams that have sort of found their gas at exactly this moment. It's not great for the Raptors, who seem to have found no gear, but maybe are like a little bit back on track. And I know we're going to get into that, but you mentioned the Hawks. There's obviously the Hornets. The Magic have been very interesting to me. I like maybe the Heat are out by the numbers, but I have a hard time counting the Heat out.
I don't. I think they stink.
maybe that's more indicative of the kind of like no quit sort of DNA in that team. But
Sure. All of the words they write on the floor and stuff. Yeah.
no, I mostly meant, I guess I meant Jimmy Butler, but now he's gone. So I think like that's a bit more of a more difficult scenario. And the Sixers too, right?
Yeah.
So there's more sort of desperation and I think pride on the line than there has been in seasons past.
Definitely. I think it's again, all these teams are flawed. None of these teams are in all likelihood winning the championship or making the conference finals. And you can look at that and say, well, none of this matters. But I think, if we want to have a league that is fun, where, you're trying to eradicate tanking, where you're trying to have parity and competitiveness, like this is what you're looking for. You're looking for a middle crust of the league that is competitive and feels like it's playing for something every year. And I think you're getting that. Like we don't often see in the NBA with the way it's so stratified at times, and the tanking brigade becomes so prevalent near the end of the year, where you have like genuine actual races where there are like things on the line and perhaps like jobs on the line for some of these people. That's not fun for them, but like it's compelling and it adds to the juice to the race. And to have this many teams that, yeah, by definition are kind of mid, really kind of gearing up and seemingly laying it all out there for a run to try to get in the top 6. Like, I think that's great. I think there's also this sort of, look, I think the top 4 in the Eastern Conference, Katie, are all very good and will likely win their first round series. But I do think because this has kind of felt like an open season, like it's felt like there's some fallibility with the top teams, particularly like the Cavs and the Knicks and even the Pistons. Like, I think these teams are sort of talking themselves into, hey, if we get in, like, maybe we can do something kind of wild. We've seen in recent years that just like, the Mavericks go on a miracle run to the NBA Finals. The Pacers go on a run last year that no one would have expected. Not any of these teams are the quality of the Pacers of last year, the Luka Doncic Mavs, but I think it's like a reasonable thing to talk yourself into. I don't think it's just total cope or delusion. I think the parity that the league has tried to achieve is making it so it's not totally ridiculous to imagine yourself in a second round series in game 6 with like, oh God, conference finals could be headed our way. And I think that's a cool little carrot to dangle in front of all of these teams. As far as the Raptors, Katie, you mentioned sort of that they haven't quite found a gear. I think that's true because it's like they found it and then it jams up and then they find it again and then they play the Kings. And so it has been a little stop and start, but I do think when they found it, I mean, we think about the Magic game where they just totally wiped the floor with them. We think about the last Heat game as well. Like when they found it, they've kind of really found it. And I have quite enjoyed some of the things that have kind of fallen into place for the team. Obviously getting everyone back and sort of quote unquote healthy. Obviously not everyone is fully 100%, but like you got all the guys, hopefully that can ride through the last 3 games and you're not dealing with some sort of injury misfortune. You've got the bench kind of finding its level as well since Colin Murray-Boyles got back and brought some stability. How have you sort of felt about the way the Raptors themselves are trending here, understanding that, they're liable to, throw a dud out there anytime based on recent events?
I don't like how, again, like I don't like the way that I think a lot of teams, some with more playoff experience than this particular Raptors team, understand when to speed things up in the season. I think that's not served them. But again, that could have been anybody's guess, at the beginning of the season. I think the bench has actually been such a good bright spot. I think back to the Celtics game over the weekend. I think it was the bench that kept them in for such a long time and kept them competitive and kept the engine up. And that I think has been maybe the most inconsistent thing for me is just, the engine, the staying power in the postseason, especially in a series where anything can, you have to take it one game at a time, right? Some quarter at a time as well. I think the engine is crucial, and where they lag and can't really like catch up or get back, that's been the most worrying thing to me. Some of that is offensive gaps, right? Some of that is shooting gaps. But what I see from the bench is like what I would want to see from everybody, which is, don't let Jason Tatum out rebound you. You can out rebound him, like go for rebounds, dive for loose balls, pressure the ball, cut, like try and just like force your way through traffic. Like, don't just like hunt for shots and stagnate your offense, really. But that's the kind of energy I really want to see. I know I've gotten like a bit farther afield offensive in like the offensive way here, but I think I feel good if that version is playing in a postseason. But that's where I feel like they can be a great like juggernaut of an offensive team one game and then a wet blanket the next.
Yeah. And I mean, look, I feel good about that version of the team too. And I feel good about seeing that version of the team when they're healthy and they have everyone available. Like, I think it's been the through line of the season that when they have their guys, they're very good. And when they don't, you take even one Jenga piece out and it can kind of all crumble down. And, you know, I think having Emmanuel quickly back, even though he didn't play a whole lot in the game against the Heat, like you could sense the change in the shape of how the team plays. The starters got right back to their usual thing where they win their minutes nonstop and are really successful. And then the bench kind of falls into place and no one's overextended. Like, you know, it's maybe not the greatest thing in the world to build your team in a way such that like they have to be fully healthy to be fully operational. You see a lot of great teams around the league where it's like, okay, we're missing a big guy, but also we can kind of fill in the gaps elsewhere. Maybe a priority for the Raptors should be this summer to find sort of similar skill sets to layer the roster with. So if you do lose someone, you can kind of put in a facsimile of what you're missing from that guy or whatever. But that's a problem for the summer. And like, yes, they've built the team to be healthy and sort of it's got to be healthy to be good. And right now they're relatively healthy. And so I think if you have that version of the team, they're capable of kind of reaching their ceiling, which, hey, maybe that's 7 games in the first round against a good team. Maybe it's a surprise win in the first round, whatever. But I feel good about that part. Hopefully they can kind of carry it through. And man, oh man, Katie, would it be nice to just get a week off next week to rest everyone. So you do, in fact, everyone healthy. You don't have to go through the play-in nonsense. We're going to come back on this side here, Katie, and get into what happens if they make the play-in and then lose in the play-in and everything is falling apart. And what will happen? Will the Raptors make big offseason changes if that takes place? We'll get into that with a mailbag question from one of our listeners left over from Tuesday's mailbag. Doing that just a second while Katie goes and stretches. Today's show is brought to you by Wayfair, and Wayday is here. And if you've been thinking about upgrading your space, this is the time to do it. We're talking about some of the best deals of the year on furniture, decor, outdoor essentials, everything you need to refresh your home during Wayday. Wayfair is offering up to 80% off with fast and free shipping on everything, making it easy to find pieces that fit your style and budget. It's super easy to filter by style, size, and price. You're not wasting time scrolling, and the reviews and photos help you feel confident in what you're getting. It's the time of year to reimagine your outdoor space. I'm a big sit outside with a drink, read a book guy in the summertime. I'm going to wear my shorts. I'm going to sit under a tree with some shade. It sounds like the best thing in the world. And I want to do that in some comfortable outdoor chair or couch or whatever it might be. And you can find all that over at Wayfair, and Wayday is the time to do it. Wayday is the sale to shop the best deals in home. We're talking 80% up to 80% off with fast and free shipping on everything. Head to wayfair.com April 25th through the 27th to shop Wayday. That's WAYFAIR.com. Wayfair, every style, every home. Today's show is also brought to you by Game Time. There's nothing like being in an NBA arena, like, say, for example, tonight in Toronto, Raptors Heat 2.0, big one. And you can go and get tickets for that game over at Game Time because it is the app that gives the fans the advantage back. It's sometimes hard to find tickets for the stuff you want to go to. Game Time makes it super easy. All-in prices up front, no surprise fees at the back end like some of the other apps. That's a huge deal. You get views from your seats, so you know exactly what you'll see when you sit down at the seats you've purchased. If you've never been to a venue before, sometimes this happens with like a baseball stadium or football stadium. You don't want to get an unfavorable sight line. You can see what that sight line is ahead of time with Game Time, and prices go down as you get closer to tips. So if you're walking around Toronto tonight in the nice shorts weather we're going to have with a beautiful 17 degrees, as Katie's brain explodes while I say this, you maybe pick up some tickets right before tip-off and go see Raptors Heat right around 7 o'clock tonight. That's a lovely thing. You get great last-minute options all the time. Take the guesswork out of buying NBA tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use code LOCKEDON for $20 off your first purchase. That's code LOCKEDON for $20 off. Download the Game Time app today. And remember, it's gametime.co, not gametime.com. Gametime.co. Go check it out, would you? Back at it here. Just a quick reminder, the Locked On Raptors Every Day Your Club is available. You can sign it up right now. $5 a month, $50 for the year. Ad-free episodes of the show. You save so much time not listening to ads. It's a huge deal. Also, you get to join our Locked On Discord. It's a great little group chat going on, talking all things NBA, Raptors, World Baseball Classic last month, Olympics when that happened, the World Cup coming up. It's all going on in the Discord. Come hang out. Link in the description of the podcast. All right. Katie, we got a question in from Calvin, who asks, if the Raptors end up crumbling in the play-in and don't make the playoffs at all this year, do you expect drastic changes or sticking with this group again with some small additions? I will put it to you here first, Katie. Well, what do you think here? I think it's a really juicy question because of the dynamics of who owns the team now and who is in charge of stuff. And obviously, Bobby Webster's in the first year of kind of having team control after the exhaustive search Rodgers went on last year to find the right guy. And, well, this is the guy in house. It makes sense. His stuff's already here. And that was the pick. I think you could argue Bobby's done a pretty good job of kind of turning things around from where they were a year and a half, 2 years ago. But obviously, if they lose in the play-in, things become a little more spicy. And I think, we can get into how much does it matter if they win 47 games and finished 7th versus 5th and lose in the play-in as opposed to making it through the playoffs. Like, how much does that weigh on the decision making here? Like, what would you expect to see this summer if the worst case scenario happens and next weekend we're not watching Toronto Raptors basketball?
Yeah, I think my mind has changed a bit on this because while I always did think the play-in was where this team would end up, and it seemed like an aspirational goal for them, the league around them has accelerated.
Sure.
In their conference and beyond. So I think the target that they might have had were this year play-in, some tinkering over the summer and adjust. It can't really hold anymore because I think the rest of the league, and especially when you look at next year, assuming, things like the Pacers are healthy again. If Giannis stays in the East, though I don't think he's staying with the Bucks, but if he stays in the East, right, like that's a different look too. They have to be better than they are. So I think the timeline that they put themselves on, sorry.
It's okay.
George. The timeline that they put themselves on doesn't necessarily make sense to me anymore. So if they win the play-in, if they don't get in we're talking about play-in only, right?
Yeah, if they lose in the play-in is the question, yeah.
Okay. Does this question disappear if they don't get in the play-in, if they are in the playoffs? Because I think it stands if they make it into the playoffs and then still lose.
Sure.
In the first round.
Yeah.
So I think they have to take a bigger swing, but I don't mean that if we need to land a superstar. I just mean you might see some people on the team that we thought of as key components.
Sure.
Actually leaving this summer.
Yeah, and see, I think that's going to probably be the case anyway, regardless of the outcome here. I think this is a big summer. They've gleaned all the information I think they could have wanted from this year. It's been a great success from that perspective of, hey, we didn't know much about this team. Now we know a whole lot about it because we've had our guys and we've seen plenty of tape, and now we can make the next decisions. And I think we're likely to see some kind of major move this summer. Whether it's, someone like RJ Barrett is at the door, like a surprise Brandon Ingram trade or something like that. I think that's very, very, very on the table, regardless of the outcome here, unless they go on a run and make the conference finals in some miraculous feat. I think we're likely to see a different iteration of this team next year. I think the only guys you'd say are firmly tied down are Scotty Barnes and Colin Murray-Boyles. And beyond that, I think they kind of reshape things how they see fit. If they, I think maybe this question is a little bit more, drastic changes I kind of view as front office moves and stuff like that too.
I see.
They just change. I mean, it's different interpretations of the question, but I think it's interesting too because of the Rodgers dynamic, right? And I'm always going to be a little wary under this Rodgers regime until we get a little bit more time, because Keith Pelly is a guy who is neither a hockey nor basketball man, who is making hockey and basketball decisions. And I don't always trust that. I think he is a guy who his job is to make MLSE lots of money. And if the team loses playoff home dates because they've crashed out in the play-in after looking like playoff home dates were coming, does that lead to some kind of reactionary move? I'm not sure it will. Like, I think Pelly, when he's been quoted talking about Bobby, has been pretty, positive and said he's the deadline, for example. Like, Bobby's not playing for his job at this trade deadline or anything like that. Obviously, you lose in embarrassing fashion in the play-in to like the Magic, and things can be sort of put back on the table. And so, yeah, like I could see some sort of like unsound short-term rationale from a basketball perspective seeping into the decision-making process by the non-basketball guy who makes the decisions. I wouldn't bet on it necessarily. Like, I think it would have to be like a truly embarrassing, like you lose the last 3 games of the season and then the play-in, you just don't have a shot. Like, it's the 9-10 game you're in by accident and all of a sudden you're kind of crashing out. Like, maybe that is the way we see it happen. But I think the margin between all these teams is so narrow that like you do have to sort of think, okay, like what is the difference if like you win 46 games and lose in the play-in versus you win 46 games and you lose in 5 games to the Knicks? Like, does that change anything as far as your overall interpretation of the season? I would argue it shouldn't. Like, I think the play-in is introduced randomness in a way that I think like front offices have to account for in both ways, right? If your team wins in the play-in and goes on a surprise, first round run or whatever, like I think you can't over-index and overreact to that either. I think it can kind of go either way. And so that's kind of where I come down on it. I don't know. It's a really, really fascinating thing to kind of unfold, because I don't know that where do you kind of come down on the sort of how much the new regime affects your sort of thinking on this? Like, I've still yet to figure out exactly what I feel. I know the Leafs just fired their GM. That was a good decision. He was a bad GM that was not hired by them. So maybe they're good at this. Maybe they know what they're doing. But like the follow-up sort of response about like the state of the Leafs suggested that they maybe didn't have a great handle on where the team is in their win cycle. And that's, again, to be expected from people who are non-sports people making sports decisions.
I think for me, it's tough to put a pin on it because we don't really know how Pelly operates.
Totally.
And we don't really know, like, is he a calm person within volatility? Does he look around the league and is he swayed by kind of the whims of the league? Because I think there will be some coaches getting fired, quite quickly. We've also seen, front offices blow up, right? And sometimes that can filter in to franchises, I think, that don't feel as like buttoned up or impermeable, who are like, no, we're going to hold the course. Like, we understand what we're doing. We're going to do our own thing. I don't know yet which one he is, because he hasn't been around long enough. I'd hope that he's somewhere in the middle where he's not so stubborn that if changes need to be made, he can make them. But he's also not just like, oh, this seems to be the time to really blow everything up, and fire.
Just like running around the offices with a hatchet. Yeah.
I don't think so, because also like it's expensive to rebuild a front office. So, and like Raptors is cheap, incredibly cheap.
They are. I mean, if you listen to the stories about how the purse strings have been tightened for the,
all of our telecom, our lack of competition in this country, and this is like a different road to go down, but like it's all the same, one of the same. But I think depending on like the oversight there, I also would if they're like, I bet the logic is like, we already blew up one franchise with the Leafs. We're not going to do that to both. Like it's just it doesn't make good business sense. So
and they already booted Masai a year ago, right? Like they've done their
which honestly
show
felt like
of
a
power,
long-term sort of brewing thing, just given the relationships there. I would say probably another season. I'd say if anyone, like I don't feel like this should happen, but like the easy fix is always the coach, right? That's the perception. But again, I don't think that's going to happen, because I think Darko has coached this group through to the point, like well past the point of what it seemed like they could be at the beginning of the season. And I think you should take a lot of credit for that. And I think stability is probably more what they need now in terms of like the front office machinations.
Yeah, I think stability and patience are two of the most underrated market inefficiencies in sports management. And be nice to see the Raptors take advantage of those. We'll come back into this side. We got one more question that came in from a listener regarding stuff we've changed our minds about from the start of the year to now. A lot of stuff has happened. Of course, every opinion I've ever had has been right, Katie. So nothing. I don't need to change my mind on nothing. But maybe you have something. We'll do that coming up in just 1 second. Today's show is brought to you by our friends over at Indeed. Deadline stacking up, inbox overflowing, and the one position you got to fill is still sitting open when the pressure's on and you need the right hire. This is a job for Indeed sponsored jobs. Indeed sponsored jobs helps you reach the people who actually fit what you're looking for, skills, experience, and location-wise. You're not just hoping the right candidate stumbles across your post. You're actually putting it in front of their face so they see it, and then they can go and click through and apply for it. You can spend less time searching and more time actually interviewing candidates who check all the boxes. Less stress, less time, more results. When you need the right person to cut through the chaos, this is a job for Indeed sponsored jobs. I've been a hiring manager. It's hard. It sucks when you can't find the right person. Go to Indeed and you will find those people that you need. And listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to help you get your job the premium status it deserves at Indeed.com/podcast. Just go to Indeed.com/podcast right now and support our show by saying you heard about it here on Locked On Raptors. Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Need to hire. This is a job for Indeed sponsored jobs. And today's show is brought to you by BetterHelp. Financial stress is something a lot of people are carrying right now. The whole world is a big old ball of stress that's weighing on people in an unimaginable ways. And it's very important to have someone to talk about it, whether it's financial stress, whether it's just general, like what's the future going to hold stress. These are heavy times, and having someone who has no personal agenda is just there to listen to you and sort of help you sort through what you're feeling is a very valuable thing. I know a lot of people who have really benefited from therapy, and I can't recommend it enough to go find yourself a therapist who can help you. And with over 30,000 licensed therapists, BetterHelp on BetterHelp, and more than 6 million people served, BetterHelp makes it easy to get matched and start focusing on what you need. It's not about financial advice. It's about working through stress, anxiety, and emotions that come with all of it. When life feels overwhelming, therapy can help. Sign up and get 10% off at BetterHelp.com/LockedOnNBA. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/LockedOnNBA. BetterHelp.com/LockedOnNBA. Right back out here with Katie Heindl as we dig one more time into the mailbag with a question here from Duncan, who asks, what is the number one thing you have changed your mind on about this team after this season? And of course, still a little season to play, still some minds to be changed on certain things, I'm sure, but we've got a lot of tape, Katie, a lot of games watched, development arcs tracked, and all of that. Is there something or someone who comes to mind as someone who has kind of done a 180 in your brain regarding your feelings on them, positively or negatively? What you got?
Yeah, it's funny. Like my brain is first negative on this, and I'm trying to get away from that. I think I mentioned,
Katie. I think everyone's brain goes negative
I
these
know.
days. So yeah,
I think my negative thing I mentioned earlier, which was just that I think the team needs to be better than it is.
Sure.
And the changes that they'll make are probably going to be more in the off season. Positively, I think RJ Barrett, especially for the kind of like mid late season kind of boon that the team found themselves in, he was extremely central to that. When he came back from injury, that was a big surprise. The competency he was playing with. Scotty Barnes is like another answer, but I think the expectation was that should happen.
Sure.
Jamal Shedd's continued progression. A negative, I think, is I feel bad. I really pick on him, but like Grady Dick, I just thought by now,
if he made some shots, he could help himself, but he doesn't make any shots. So
yeah, I just thought we'd see a different, kind of a next gen 2.0 version of him, and we haven't yet, and that's been a little bit surprising just given the bench play and the depth, the accidental depth that's been on display with the injuries. Jacoby Welter has been a great surprise. I'm very curious to see. I know you mentioned like untouchables, and I guess like he doesn't fall into that category. I would hope
probably close though.
Would hang on to him, but I could also see, this feels so heartless, but I could also see him in a trade where, like, because he has so much upside, that he offers a lot to many teams in the East. I feel so gross saying that.
I mean, it's the reality for a team that's likely to probably poke around some big trades this summer. Like
Yeah.
having young guys who are attractive to other teams is just kind of part of that.
That wasn't, I'm sorry, that wasn't like one thing. That was
that's okay.
8 or 9.
That's all right. I think RJ is a really good one. I came into this season and it felt as though the team felt this too, right? Like it was telegraphed. Like, yeah, we're probably going to try to move RJ at some point.
Yeah.
I don't think the sort of the winning, like the play driving stuff that he's shown this year, I didn't really think he had it in him, right? Like, I knew that there was an offensive player with a streamlined role who could be successful, like we saw at the back end of the season after the first trade. The season after that last year, like it was a bad context he was playing in and all of that. But I thought there was some kind of old New York Knicksy RJ habits kind of seeping back in that I wasn't super thrilled about. And I thought the defense was going to continue to be a real problem. And hey, like the defense is still a problem, not as prevalent necessarily as before. I think his on-ball stuff has gotten a lot better. He's pretty locked in, but continues to be a pretty absent-minded off-ball defender at times and just loves to get back cut. It's like his favorite thing in the world, apparently. So that stuff is still there, but I think, it's undeniable. When he's been on the floor, the Raptors offense has hummed, and I think he can be the type of player who you can win meaningful basketball games with. I still don't necessarily think that guarantees him to be on the team forever. Like I think as an expiring guy going into the summer, there's every possibility he is traded and, that they use him as the sort of avenue to get an upgrade. But I think he's a more attractive player for those types of trades now than he was a year ago, probably too, because of what he's done this season. So that's a big one. The other one too is at the draft last year, I was pretty concerned about drafting Colin Murray-Boyles and thinking, I just don't see how it works with him and Scotty Barnes. Like it seems like there's so much overlap there. And I have been very wrong about that because apparently Colin Murray-Boyles just plays like he's 7'2" and 290 pounds. It's just what he does. And I think seeing him be such an outlier of strength and sort of competency at center, despite being 6'7", has been a delight, number one, to watch. He's just so cool, like a very, very cool player to watch. And a guy who just is additive any single time he's on the floor. But I think now, there's a pathway here to, it's not an orthodox team build necessarily to have Scotty Barnes and Colin Murray-Boyles as kind of like the two centerpieces around what you're building. But I don't think it's impossible to build a team around those guys either. And I think what they do defensively as a duo is so dynamic and so outlier good that it is the kind of thing that teams can be built on. Like good teams are built on outlier play. And those two guys as a defensive duo are outliers. And I think that to me is the thing I've kind of come around on the most this year of Colin Murray-Boyles can reach his ceiling with his team, and it doesn't have to come at the expense of Scotty Barnes because they are just so dynamic defensively. And I think their offensive wits and their interior passing and the stuff they each do can work if you have the right set of players around them. And so, Colin Murray-Boyles. God, Katie, I'm having so much fun watching this guy. What about you? We haven't talked about CMB for a little bit. Really good just anytime he's on the floor, it turns out.
Yeah, he's a great one. I wouldn't say that my mind was changed on him because I was always a bit piqued, in terms of seeing what it was he could do and what he would add to the team. Sure. I didn't really see the misfit as you did because I just, when I think of centers, maybe this is being spoiled, but when I think of centers and the Raptors, I already think of someone who isn't stuck there, right?
Someone who is 6'8" and can't shoot. Yeah.
No, wow. I meant we're being positive. I meant oscillating through positions, right? And positionality and the skill set that brings. So I think what for me has been really cool to see is just the sort of hesitation that he had fall away. Yeah. And the confidence that he's playing with and how he fits into things quite, seamlessly when he's getting that. And also the knocks that he's taken, how he's able to very quickly recalibrate from them. So a really good growth trajectory, I think, for him this season. Again, it's so funny. I know he's I know he's technically big, but when I look at him, and unless I'm right beside him, I often forget how big he is. I don't know if that's just he doesn't play. There's something deceptive maybe about the way that he moves or the way that he plays. He doesn't, which is a good thing,
I think his
I'm always
size
he's huge. Yeah.
It's more like a horizontal thing than a vertical thing with him. He's just like a thick, wide guy. And that is tough to overcome on a court where there's limited space to move and get around guys. He's just a boulder. It's yeah, he's been so fun. And yeah, like his presser after the game on Tuesday was a lot of fun too. He's exhausted. Like he's just like he's taking bumps. Like he's got a thigh thing. His thumb is not on his body. Like he's like clearly weathered, but he's just like keeping on through it. I think that's the through line of the season of him just being way more physically up to it than you'd expect any rookie to fathomably be has been so fun. I mean, from like the first week of his career, going toe to toe with Steven Adams to the "nah, I lift" comment when I asked him if he was surprised about how much he's held up against NBA physicality to you know, sort of just the continued trajectory he's been on of just yeah, okay, Bam Adebayo is going to try to post me up. No, he's not. I'm too strong for that. Like it's wild stuff. He's been tons of fun, and yeah, I think. Not that I didn't like him as a prospect, because I think my direct quote at the time of the draft was, he's a prospect like made in a lab for me to like. And I just think the fit on the Raptors is a little whack. And I'm glad that has been disproven. And I've come around on that because, yeah, him and Scotty together, I think, is going to be the source of a whole lot of defensive fun for many, many years to come, on top of, you know, cool interior passing, which is the other thing I love the most, Katie. We're going to leave it there. Katie, thanks as always for hanging out, shooting the breeze. Anything you want to promote for the good people out there?
I guess just no, I can't. I can't. I can't, you know, but like anyway, I have a big,
keep an eye on this space.
I have a big feature coming.
Space, yeah, Katie's socials or whatever.
Yeah, really big feature coming that I've been working on for a long time. Other than that, I'll be on NBA TV for our last episode of the regular season on Sunday. I know, it's crazy.
Basketball feelings, the association, this piece you have coming hopefully next week that's going to rock. Yeah, love that we get to promote it the hell out of it on the podcast, Katie, because it probably deserves more promotion than this podcast gives it, but you know, I'm doing my part. We'll leave it there. Thank you so much. We'll be back again on Friday. Joe Wolfond will be along. We'll talk about Raptors Heat, and we'll send you off into the weekend. Everydayer Club, link in the description of the podcast, join the Discord, etc., 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 all that good stuff. Talk to you soon. Thanks for hanging. Bye-bye.